And we're back with the last segment. All the guys are going to give their Final Four. So, Mr. Brockman, who do you like coming out of the East region in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I think your best team in the tournament, when they're fully healthy, let me say that. When fully healthy, I think Duke's the best team in the tournament. And I look at that. I look at those matchups that they've got to get through. I think that they might struggle a little bit with Virginia Tech in the Sweet 16 if they get there. But, I don't see them having much trouble early. And if you get Mike Krzyzewski and his coaching staff to the Elite Eight, chances are they're probably going to have their team ready to go. I know they lost in the Elite Eight last year, but I would take Duke against Michigan State in the Elite Eight, with Duke winning that one to advance to Minneapolis.
All right. How about the South region? Or actually, we'll go to the West. Who do you like in the West?
In the West, I think that one's really a toss-up. I think there's a lot of good teams there. Obviously, Gonzaga being the 1 seed, they've got a strong possibility. However, I think that my upset special is coming out of the West. I think that I'm going to take the Florida State Seminoles. The Florida State Seminoles to advance to the Final Four after a dogfight in that round of 32 against the Murray State Racers. I think that Florida State and their length and athleticism propels them past Gonzaga, and then I think they beat Michigan in the Elite Eight to advance out of the West region.
Okay, the South in Louisville, where I'm sure Kentucky would like to be, but they're stuck in Kansas City.
I'm just going to be straight to the point. I think that after Virginia's meltdown last year against UMBC, I think they come out really motivated to prove the haters wrong from last year. I look at that bracket, and there's not a lot of great teams in that bracket. I think they cakewalk through the South until they meet Tennessee, and then I think that pack line defense that Tony Bennett and his team plays, I think that gives Tennessee fits. I think that Virginia comes out of the South region in Louisville and advances to the Final Four.
All right, Final Four pick, the Midwest.
Midwest, I think, is the most intriguing of the brackets. You've got a lot of blue blood programs in there. You've got North Carolina, you've got Kentucky, you've got Kansas. I think that the final, the Elite Eight matchup there is going to wind up being North Carolina and Kentucky. I think Kentucky struggles a little bit to advance early, but I think they get by Wofford. I think they have a dogfight with Iowa State and get through that round of 16 matchup. I think North Carolina advances pretty easily to the Elite Eight, and then I think you have a rematch of the game earlier in the year with North Carolina and Kentucky. I think Kentucky advances to the Final Four.
So you were actually one team off of a ACC Final Four. You had Duke, you had Gonzaga, you had Virginia, and you were almost, which I'm not sure on this, but I'm sure that's never happened before, one conference. The closest I think would be 85 with the Big East with Villanova and Georgetown, and but my Final Four in the East, I agree with you. Duke's the best team in the tournament when fully healthy, and I don't know what Marquise Bolden's situation is, but if he gets back, I think it's a cakewalk. Michigan State's a tough team, but I think they pretty much cruise to Minneapolis.
Duke's too athletic for them.
Yeah, I think they cruise to Minneapolis. In the West, in Anaheim, California, man, I'd love to see Murray State in Minneapolis, but it's not going to happen. Gonzaga, I think, has a tough matchup against Syracuse in the first round, gets to the Elite Eight, though. And then Michigan advances, and you have a Gonzaga-Michigan game in the Elite Eight. And I think this Michigan team is built for March, and I have Michigan going to the Final Four with a game against Duke. And like you said, Virginia, I think they come out motivated after their meltdown last year. Smack Gardner-Webb by about 35. Walk to the Elite Eight. But their reward is getting Tennessee in the Elite Eight, and I believe Tennessee is just too good. I got too many players: Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, Lamonte Turner, Jordan Bone. I mean,
name drops for days.
Yeah. I mean, too many guys. In the Midwest, I have North Carolina, pretty much advancing pretty easy. Maybe a tough game against Auburn there in the Sweet 16. But like you said, Kentucky, I think, has a tough second round game against potentially Wofford or Seton Hall.
Who's already beaten them?
Right, Seton Hall. But I think they get past. I think we get a rematch, North Carolina, Kentucky, and I believe North Carolina advances to Minneapolis. So my Final Four is Duke, Michigan, Tennessee, and Carolina. And Quinn, your Final Four?
Well, out of the East, I think you can guess who I have. I have the Duke Blue Devils, and
Thought you might take Belmont.
yeah, well, I'd much rather take Belmont, but I don't see it happening. You know, I think we can all agree that Duke is one of the most talented teams we've had in a while, and you know they're gonna have a fit with Michigan State. Michigan State's a good team, led behind you know the Fighting Izzos.
It is January, February, Izzo, April, May.
Yeah.
Substitute that in for March, huh?
You know, Michigan State has a Big Ten Player of the Year, Cassius Winston, good player. But I'll have Duke coming out on top and advancing to the Final Four. From the West, I have Michigan. You know, it was tough for me to decide either Michigan State or Michigan or Florida State. You know, Mr. Brockman over here has Florida State. Good pick. I can see where he's coming from. But I took Michigan. You know, they're a good team. You look at their schedule and they beat big name teams by, you know, double figures. Like they beat North Carolina by 17, Purdue by 19, and they have one of the most dominating defenses in the country. And I have Michigan coming out of the West. Moving on to the South, in my Elite Eight, I had Virginia playing Tennessee. I ended up taking Virginia, but I had them losing next round in the Final Four to North Carolina, coming out of the Midwest. So my Final Four concludes of Michigan, Duke, Virginia, and North Carolina.
All right, Final Four picks, Mr. Brockman.
Duke over Florida State. Florida State defensively strong, don't have enough on offense to get it done. Duke advances to the national championship, where they will await the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky gets it done against Virginia in a dogfight. I think that'll be the game of the tournament. Kentucky, Virginia in the Final Four. You get a rematch of the matchup from earlier in the year. Kentucky and Duke in the championship, and your 2019 national champions for I believe the third time in Minneapolis, the Duke Blue Devils.
I can't say I disagree there. I have Duke beating Michigan. Michigan, great defensive team, but don't have much on offense. Xavier Simpson, Iggy Brosdakis. I've been waiting to drop that name.
That's a good one.
Love Brosdakis, but I think Duke gets it done. They got too many athletes, too many 5 stars. And then on the other side, I have Tennessee versus North Carolina in what that game the final score might be 120 to 110. Just two great offenses, two great fast up-tempo. Jordan Bone against Kobe White would be an unbelievable point guard matchup. But I have Tennessee advancing in my national championship, Duke versus Tennessee. And I would love to see Zion Williamson versus Admiral Schofield in a bench press contest. Nevertheless, in a basketball game, but give me the Duke Blue Devils to cut down the nets. I would be pretty happy, and I believe that will happen.
Two game changers there. Admiral Schofield and Zion Williamson both gave Kentucky fits when they played. You know, Admiral, as a UK fan, I'll just say it straight up. We hate Admiral Schofield. He's one
Which I don't get, by the way. I don't get why you guys don't like him, but that's neither here nor there.
I won't go there for sake of time, but
it's because his name's
you were saying your Final Four, Quinn.
That's right.
Sorry, Quinn.
Yes. So I had Duke, Michigan, Virginia, North Carolina in the Final Four, and I have Michigan beating Duke in the Final Four, and North Carolina beating Virginia, and I have North Carolina coming out on top. Prediction of score 79-73.
I'm throwing that out there. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You never know, Jay.
Go ahead and take that one to the bank for all you people out there in the podcast world.
Yeah.
As a Kentucky fan, it's hard for me to be behind Duke. You know, they're obviously one of the favorites, but it's just, I don't know, my heart won't let me. So I'm gonna have to go with the Tar Heels.
So we're all three in agreement. The national championship will come back to Tobacco Road for the third time in the last 5 years. All right. Well, Mr. Brockman, we really appreciate you coming on today, and look forward to your thoughts on NCAA tournament.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you all having me on, and I'll just leave you with a great quote from my man Charles Barkley when talking about the NCAA tournament when he was discussing some of the teams, and I think it's very relevant here in this podcast. Your all's podcast is like that 5-star McDonald's All-American. You guys are out here with McDonald's All-Americans while some of these other podcasts are just eating at McDonald's. Right. And I think, I think you guys do a great job, and I always appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thank you, and we'll be sure to get your thoughts on the first few rounds. Really appreciate you coming on.
Stay tuned, more content coming your way, and we want to thank you for listening to our episode of J&Q Podcast.
Yep, appreciate it.